Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative. What, from your perspective, are some of the disadvantages to using art therapy?
Um, the biggest disadvantage that always comes to my head is you can have a whole thing planned out, like you have 3 art directives, and when the client comes in, they're like, "I'm not doing that." I'm like, "Oh." So then you really have to be able to fall back on, "Okay, what's in my toolbox? How can I be fluid?" So that's one different disadvantage, but another one is that, honestly, people can be really fearful of art therapy. And that just has to do with the misconceptions of what it is. But, these clients think that we're going to see their art and be able to tell these very vulnerable things about them, things that they themselves might even know what that is. And I've had clients who will purposely make very explicit images to try and test or bait me, which, if you're not trained, and I have seen this among some clinicians, is that they can get stuck in an assumption of the client. Um, but that's not what you wanna do. You wanna be able to take that, behavior and take that reaction and include it within the therapeutic process.
Got it, got it. Are you aware of any, in some of the research that I found, are you aware of any studies or individuals that where someone actually felt increased anxiety because of an art therapy session that maybe went in a direction that wasn't planned? Could the art somehow trigger something that that the consumer wasn't really ready to process in that moment? I'm just curious.
It's actually interesting you brought this up because this just happened to me recently,
Wow.
is I had a student, or sorry, I had a client who loved the idea of art therapy, and then they came into session and there was something not right, and they told me that they got rejected from college. I wanted to do an art therapy directive around that. Come to find out they were rejected from school. So it was not the right move to go. They actually stopped processing, and I had to do, containment and work through them with that. So that was actually one instance for me where that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Thanks for being, that transparent. It could sometimes, one of the things that occurred to me, we're so lucky to be able to connect with you here through hearyou.org as an art therapist. And if someone's not like you, if they're not really well trained and skilled in the modality, things can go a little awry. So you were skilled enough and you knew how to jump right on that and correct that session. But you want to do some research and find out that the person you're sitting down with is really skilled and ready to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there is a lot of, and I'm so glad that you're going to bring up ADA later, but there is a lot of incorrect info out there about art therapy and the difference between that and when a clinician just uses art in therapy as more of a mindfulness technique or coping skill. Which there is a very big difference between those two.
And I'm glad you brought that up. We've got another of these videos as a part of this healing series and the trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California. uh, Drawing and coloring and sketching can be a mindfulness practice, but as you just said, it's very, very different from art therapy. So, yeah, we will be mentioning that organization a little bit later.
Okay.
Can you tell me, we're kind of a microwave society, and I know I certainly like results sooner than later in anything that I try to do. Can you tell me, generally speaking, and I know, no one session or one consumer is like the next, but how quickly might one see positive results after beginning art therapy with a trained clinician?
That is a very tough question.
Sorry.
It No, that's okay. I it's gonna depend from person to person, everybody's if we're talking about trauma, everyone's trauma is complex and deep. It's different. It could take months for them to see positive results. It could take, the first 2 sessions. I think it's really about, the person's desire to do the work. But it's also, did you really find a therapist who you connected with? So you're not just doing the work in session and kind of just going by it, but you're actually processing and trying to heal what you have revealed. And just like any therapy, there's going to be, good and bad days. Some clients, and I'll be honest with you, have had that moment where they make some realizations in the first 2, 3 sessions, and then I don't see them for a while because that was too much. That was too vulnerable for them. So even though they had this kind of step forward, they don't want to do anymore because it is getting to a state where I've lived with this and I have my walls. I'm not ready to completely tear them down yet. So
And you've
again, it's
got
complex.
And you've got to be ready to do that. You're reminding me of some trauma healing sessions that I went through related to using EMDR. And I had to be in a place to really, once you go there, I had to force myself. I remember that. I had to force myself. No, I got to go back because it was a positive thing. It wasn't always comfortable. But once I got in the weeds, it was good. So I got to push through it. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I could imagine with art therapy, the same would be true. It might not be 100% comfortable or what we think of as comfort, but you got to push through that.
Yes, and the other thing is it's not all on the client either, right? You want to have a clinician who's willing to meet you where you're at and be able to maybe not walk side by side with you, but just a little behind you and be on that journey with you. Um, that's really important when finding a clinician that's right for you.
Speaking of finding a clinician, that's a great inroad to the next question. When we decided at Brother Be Well that we wanted to explore art therapy and bring it to our Brother Be Well family, we had trouble finding an art therapist. And then when we knew we wanted an art therapist of color, there weren't the pool of art therapists wasn't as big as I would have liked it to be, which reminded me of the pipeline problem that we've addressed here at Brother Be Well. We've discussed it quite a bit. The provision of culturally competent care, those individuals who can do that. Very simply put, there are not nearly enough mental health practitioners of color to serve an increasingly diverse community or set of communities. I'm wondering, I didn't want to let you get away before I asked you this question. If someone like you is thinking about maybe they're listening to this and they're thinking about pursuing a career in art therapy, just from your perspective, what should that individual bring to the table?
Yeah, as so for the art therapist piece, you want to be competent with working with art and creating art materials. You don't have to be necessarily amazing at them, but just be familiar with them. But the part that, I really want to focus on is if you are looking to be a future practitioner of color, you can absolutely bring accessibility to this type of modality, especially to diverse communities. But something that can really set you apart and put you above all the rest is your understanding of the difference between cultural competency and cultural humility. That humility piece is what will really allow you to help these different communities and absorb while also utilizing that lifelong learning of each individual's complex culture because you really want your therapeutic intervention to be properly adapted from what I think a lot of modalities are trying to get past that idea of one size fits all when it comes to therapy.
So beautifully put, Medea. We're going to be talking about culturally competent care in a standalone session. I may just reach out to you for that discussion if you'd be open to that.
Oh, I am so ready.
I can't wait. Can't wait to get into that. If you've enjoyed this particular session, there's a organization I want to tell you about, the American Art Therapy Association. Their website is arttherapy.org. That's arttherapy.org. So check that out. If something has lit a spark in you and you want to learn more about art therapy, that's a great place to go. Medea Giddings, I want to thank you for your time and attention and for being a part of this conversation. Associate Marriage and Family Therapist and Art Therapist with HearU.org. Thank you so very much for being with us today.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I'm happy to have this discussion whenever.
We'll be back in touch with you again. I promise you that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
I want to also thank you for checking this video out. It's a part, again, of a series of videos on trauma and healing that's made possible by the generous support of Blue Shield of California, and specifically their Blue Sky initiative. That initiative boosts access to mental health support. You can learn all about it at bluesky.blueshieldca.com. That's bluesky.blueshieldca.com. Another website that I've got to tell you about before I let you get away is our own, brotherbewell.com. If you like this video, you got something out of that. There's a whole series again on trauma and healing. You want to check out some of those. There are videos on any one of a variety of behavioral health topics on brotherbewell.com. Not just videos, though. We've got podcasts there, compelling print pieces, all kinds of resources. It's all for you at brotherbewell.com. We're a membership supported service. So if you can join us as a member, that would be great. If you're not quite ready for that yet, you want to stick your toe in the water and see how it is. Trust me, the water's fine over here. Just give us your email address, sign up for our blog, and you'll begin to get notices 2 or 3 times a week when things go live. So check that all out at brotherbewell.com. My name again, Michael P. Coleman. I'm content director for Brother Be Well. Until next time, and I'm already looking forward to next time, I want to ask you to do 2 things for me. Take great care of yourself, and we're trying to help you do that. When you get it down, reach out to somebody else and help take care of somebody else too. He or she will appreciate it. Till next time, bye-bye.